What is up, everyone? This is your boy SBPhilos4 here, and welcome back to another episode of the RePHIL Studio. Get your cans ready. We're going to refill to 99 as we always do and get ready for our next set. We have our special guest waiting on the other side of the studio, but before that, we'll do a usual discussion about what's going on in JPdori and ENdori and just get an update of how each of the franchises are doing. And of course, before we begin, reminder that this podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms. So check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And of course, if you are listening on YouTube, feel free to comment, and subscribe because all that is greatly appreciated. So let's get right into it. At the time of this recording, JPdori and the official JP Bandori account shared a live stream that sort of gave some teasers of what's to come for the third years. And again, we already know that the third years are going to be graduating and there'll be events specifically dedicated to them. And now I have a few more details. So there's going to be two events, and these two events will be the last two events before the 6th year anniversary. So this is really exciting. So basically this is sort of like the countdown, the last bit before we get to the 6th year anniversary. The third year is graduating and officially everyone will be aging up. So this will be very exciting to see. So first of all, on February 28th, we'll have our first event, and we'll feature the following characters. It will feature Sayo, Kanon, Aya, Chisato, and Lisa. So these are all basically the Hanasakigawa characters, except Lisa is actually swapped in instead of Rinko. This is probably to make sure that it's not like the exact same focus characters as the School Excursion event. So just add a little bit of variety here. Now, when it comes to this particular event, keep in mind that Chisato and Lisa are going to be the event cards, but they are the 4-star cards. So they're free 4-star cards. You might as well play through the event to try and grab these 4-star cards because, getting a free 4-star is really rare. So might as well play the event to get it. And then meanwhile, Sayo, Kanon, and Aya will be gacha on the gacha banner. Now, they also previewed some of the character card arts on the stream, so I'll actually show it on screen right now, just what it looks like. And as you can see, they're very pretty. These are just the untrained versions, by the way, too. We still don't know what the trained versions look like, but wow, these look very gorgeous, honestly. Like the sakura blossoms, the fact that they have their little flowers, their graduation flowers, and just a lot of background and a little bit of character and personality on each of the designs and cards is honestly amazing. So big props to the artists for this big project of making a really sentimental moment for these cards. Now, in addition to this event will also feature a song. This is a new song that hasn't been announced yet. It's called Yell. Yell is going to be the event song for this particular event, the first event on February 28th. It will feature all the third years singing the song, except for Aya. As we know, Maeshima Ami has retired from being Maruyama Aya's voice actress due to health concerns. So it seemed like she couldn't get this recording of the song done on time. So it will just be the other 9 singing, which is a real big shame. And I really hope everything is well with Amita, but that's just sometimes how it is. It is quite unfortunate, but regardless, the other 9 who are singing is going to be a blast. I think it's going to be really cool to see how this song goes, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing this song. And again, it's just a really nice moment for them. The other event is going to be happening on March 8th. And on March 8th, the second event featuring the third years will feature Rinko, Hina, Maya, Yukina, and Kaoru. And once again, Rinko and Lisa basically swapped because to kind of not be redundant on focus events. But yeah, this will be the event characters for the second event on March 8th. In this case, Yukina and Kaoru will be the event cards. And they're 4 stars. So again, if you could play them and get free 4 stars, you might as well do it. So definitely get the chance to play that. And then the 4-star Rinko, Hina, and Maya will be the gacha. So that's something to keep in mind. Again, I'll also show the previews of each of the cards on screen as well if I haven't done so already. These, again, are very wonderful looking cards, and I do look forward to seeing what you all think, whether or not which card is your favorite. which one you enjoy the most, and also if you're looking forward to these events. Again, this is sort of the last hurrah before the 6th year anniversary. So these events will probably be very exciting, fun events before the 6th year anniversary happens. So definitely look forward to that, and let me know what you are looking forward to. Just before I sort of wrap up this part, there is the event song for the second event that has been announced. It's See You, and we've already seen or heard bits of this song during the Garpa Station live stream earlier in the year. So we already know what's happening here. And on March 8th, there's actually going to be a full sort of a video that's going to be released on the official YouTube Bandori YouTube channel. So definitely look forward to that. See You is going to be a really interesting song as well. Again, it does feature all the third years, so definitely look forward to hearing the song once it comes out. A few other miscellaneous things will happen in the game as well. Like, as an example, the area map for Hanasakigawa as well as Hanaoka will have some extra cosmetic changes to sort of show that, again, they are graduating. So you can see on screen, there's some like cherry blossoms, there's some extra like decorations to kind of indicate the graduation. So a lot of fun there. So I'm definitely looking forward to just seeing that last hip hip hurrah before the 6th year anniversary. So yeah, that's basically all that's happening in JPdori. Here's a summary of what the upcoming events will look like. And again, you have a bit of an idea of what the event banner looks like, what the gacha banner looks like, and what song is associated with each. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that we don't know what type of event it is, like whether or not it's a mission live or like a medley live or team live. If I were to guess, it's probably going to be like a medley live or team live, because Bushiroad loves those events now, but you never know. It's definitely not going to be, could it be Challenge Live or VS Live? Maybe, but I don't know. You could give some guesses, and probably by the time this video is released, we already have an idea of what the first event's going to be. But again, I'm just doing this right after this live stream happens. So let me know what you're most excited for. And again, shout outs to JPdori. So ENdori, I just want to give a few updates, and the main update I do want to talk about with ENdori is simply the fact that there's going to be an interesting development with the songs. So in particular, 2 songs in ENdori will actually be removed from the game entirely because of copyright licensing. Now, for some people, this might be a bit of a surprise, but I don't think it's necessarily that much as a surprise for me, because Bushiroad, the sort of the English, the worldwide sort of, I guess the company, they do actively work on copyright, and it's like holding copyright for a certain period of time. I actually spoke with the events coordinator, community manager, Lucia, a couple months ago in person, and he talked about things like the fact that there's, it's a little bit more efficient to have copyright licenses for only a certain period of time, and then you give that copyright license out, and of course remove the song as a result. And they do that quite often in D4DJ, and D4DJ and Bandori and ENdori are actually very closely tied together. So the 2 songs that are going to be removed from the game are Alchemy and Little Buster. So you can see they're kind of in the same kind of category, like same company. So it kind of makes sense. Alchemy will be removed from the game on March 29th, and Little Busters will be removed from the game on April 5th. So this does set a bit of precedence that maybe some other songs will be removed from the game in the future. Now, the obvious direction that you may look at is, again, very similar song or similar songs that are from the similar franchises of Key, I believe. So like Crow Song, maybe Tori no Uta. Those songs might end up being removed in the future. Now, we don't know. That these seem like the biggest culprits. I also think a song like CQCQ could be a really big culprit, because CQCQ initially I thought was not going to be added to the game because of copyright issues. It got added a little later, but I feel like it's maybe only for a very temporary bit of time. And as you can see, Alchemy and Little Busters have basically been in the game since launch, and it's been about 5 years. So it seems like the Bushiroad is able to get a license for these songs for about 5 years. Now, we could also maybe estimate like songs like Crow Song and Tori no Uta will be in the game for about 5 years before they get removed. But also there's a chance that the licenses could be shorter for these other songs. Like, for instance, who knows? CQCQ might be removed after a year or 2 from now. So this does set some precedents that, again, this was happening quite often in D4DJ, not necessarily ENdori, but now it's that's a reality. So I don't know if there's any songs that maybe you guys think might end up being removed, or you're worried that might be removed. Either way, again, there are some songs that I could kind of tell that, because of copyright issues, the ones I mentioned earlier, I feel like those might have a pretty good chance of possibly being removed in the future, but we'll see how that goes. So again, for those who haven't, for whatever reason, played Alchemy or Little Busters yet, definitely get those rewards as soon as possible, because once those songs are removed, you can't get those rewards again, especially if you don't get the star related rewards on hard and expert difficulty. So definitely get to playing those. So let me know down below what you guys think about that. Again, I think it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's not unexpected. I think it's something that, it just has to happen. And, I think it's just unfortunate. It would have been great if we could just keep these songs forever. But again, just based on how things operate in the sort of the worldwide Bushiroad sort of company and office, I think this to them, it just makes sense. And yeah, it's understandable. So regardless, that's how it is. Now, one thing I do want to ask, now that things are starting to possibly be removed from the game, I actually do want to ask a studio question to my server members. And again, for those who are unaware, I always have a studio question where I ask server members and community members what they think of this particular question, and their discussion points will be featured on this podcast. So my question for this episode to my members was what sort of obsolete or old feature that hasn't been sort of used in a long time do you want to see come back to the game? And I think this is a pretty fitting question to the fact that there's some things that are just actually going to be removed. So maybe there's some things that we haven't seen for a while, and we could try and bring them back. The obvious choice for a lot of people is the character songs. Now, of course, this is a lot of work, and character songs were a thing that were created basically like in year 1 of Bandori. We're approaching year 6, and we haven't had a character song since. I think this is the most obvious answer to this question, because I think, again, having more character songs, give a little bit of personality to each character is probably very ideal. Now, again, I don't know if they'll ever do that, because again, Bushiroad has acknowledged that this is a lot of work and it's not necessarily easy to make specific character songs. So who knows if this will end up being a thing and whether or not they will bring this back. But again, this is what most of my members have shared. Now, another thing that hasn't been necessarily as actively pursued as before was the full song maps. And that's another thing that I mentioned as an example, because again, when the full song maps first came out, it was relatively hyped up, and people were like, the company was telling us, Bushiroad was telling us, this is going to be something we'll see more often, have a lot more full maps added to the game, and have people enjoy playing the full song in its entirety with the map. But I think it may have not received as high of a reputation or as high of an ovation as they would like. So they actually really toned down on bringing back full songs. Recently in ENdori, we got the full version of Circle Party Thanks, but I think that might be the last song that has ever been added as a full song to the game since. So this is definitely an old practice, and I think for some people, and some people have mentioned that this could be something that we could try and bring back, but again, it does require a lot of effort to sort of map every single song like that. And is it necessarily worth it? Is it necessarily what the players want? For some people, not really. So it's an interesting discussion to have, but that's another thing that could possibly maybe be brought back from the dead. So we'll see. I don't know if you guys in the comments below think that is a good idea. Personally, I think one thing they should try and bring back, that's a little bit of an obsolete art, but I think would be really cool to see back, is to have the event sort of banners feature more than one character. Now, some of the old banners, like way back in the day, they had banners that featured multiple characters at once. And I think for recent times, the most recent one was probably the Morphonic, like all the collab related banners would have multiple characters on that banner. But other than collabs, regular events generally only feature one character. So it's a very small thing, but I think if an event banner does feature more than one character, I think it's a nice shout out, and it gives a little bit of extra points, especially because there's some characters that haven't been featured on a banner for a very long time, and this gives a little bit of easier time for them to not wait years for them to reappear as like them by themselves as a event banner. So for instance, the Kaoru fans were waiting for like 3 years, right, for that particular banner to happen. So I think that would also be something that'd be quite interesting if they brought that back. Again, it's a bit of an obsolete art other than the collabs, but I think that's something that I think if it was brought back, that would be great. So I don't know if there's anything else you guys think of, because again, a lot of these new features are generally features that improve the gameplay experience, and some old features are indeed removed for a reason. But if there's any old features out there that you guys think that you would like to see back, let me know in the comments below. I also think that generally, again, it's not necessarily obsolete, but like having more VS lives or challenge lives instead of team lives and meta lives is like a personal kind of suggestion. But again, we already know Bushiroad has already kind of moved towards playing more medley lives and team lives because they make more money. So I don't think they're going to change that. But either way, let me know in the comments below what you think an obsolete sort of trait in Bandori you would like to see come back and get the run back. So that's basically it I want to discuss with today's discussion points. And again, for those who are unaware, just before we move on to our special guest, I did get second place recently in the School Excursion Hanasakigawa Arc event in ENdori. If you haven't checked out my video on how I did and share my experience in that, check out the card above. You'll be able to see how I did in that event. And again, it was a really fun, exciting event. It's also kind of maybe a coincidental that we're also talking about the third years again. 1 year after, basically like on the same time as me actually getting this event in ENdori. So pretty fun there. So definitely check it out. So that's it for at least this discussion portion for today. Let's head over to the other side of the studio where our special guest awaits. Hey everyone. Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. As a reminder, the RePHIL Studio podcast is available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And when you're there, make sure to leave a high rating and also leave a comment, because all support with regards to bringing more exposure to the RePHIL Studio podcast is greatly appreciated. Speaking of support, big shout out and thank you to the Filler Nation members who've been constantly supporting me in making my content. So you'll be featured in videos like these. And again, I want to say a big thank you to you all for supporting me on my content. So if you want to be a part of the Filler Nation and you want to support me and my content, feel free to join by subscribing to my Twitch channel. Links in the description below. And in the description, you also see the link to my Unga Academy Discord server where you can join fellow members who are passionate about Bang Dream and also be able to interact with special guests featured on this podcast. You'll also be able to participate in the studio question that appears on every episode. So we look forward to seeing you there. So let's hop right back into the episode. What is up, everyone? Welcome back. Get your cans ready. We're going to refill to 99 as we always do on the studio here. And today I have the honor and pleasure to welcome Crane to the studio. So as a brief introduction, CraneTrek has a T1 title in the Future Will Surely Be Rosy event, as well as 4th place in the recent School Excursion Hanasakigawa Arc event. And also very notably is a big Flameless tier. Have a dozen of T100 Flameless achievements. So, Crane, once again, welcome to the studio. It's great to have you as a guest.
Thank you, Phil. It is a pleasure to be here.
Great. So, let's get right into this episode. And when it comes to speaking with our special guests here, I always want to first start off with learning a little bit more about their origin story, in particular how they first got into Bang Dream Girls Man Party and what made them decide that this was a game they wanted to play and pursue. So Crane, tell us your origin story. How did you first get into Bandori?
Right. So I was a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I think college apps were either like about done or already done. But I was big into love life. I was big into love life. So I was playing Love Life School Idol Festival,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad, who does not like my gaming habits, caught me playing it one night, and
Mm.
he was really, really pissed. So he confiscated my phone for a night and gave it back to me the next morning, but he had also uninstalled Love Life School Idol Festival. Now, granted, I had like backup plans. I put all the data on my emulator and I was
Mm-hmm.
going to re-download it onto my phone. But I figured, but as I was going to like the Google Play Store, right, to re-download LLSIF,
Mm-hmm.
the music section, which I figured would be the easiest way since LLSIF was like the second item in that list. And then I thought to myself, wait, okay, so School Idol Festival All Stars is going to be coming out in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happens, I am going to have my absolute fill of Love Life content. And I'm probably going to go grind that game instead because I have the opportunity to see like what it's like to try how much I can build from like day one.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this game that's first on the standings. Let's see what it's all about. All right, what is this called? Bang Dream Girls Band Party. Let's download that.
Yeah. So, well, that's honestly quite a different story from what we usually hear from guests. Like again, a lot of people get into the game because of Love Live, and the franchises are relatively similar in nature because it's a music rhythm game with a bunch of anime girls and such. But yeah, I mean, the fact that it was a lot of it was kind of out of your control, and then because of curiosity, figure out what series kind of dethroned your favorite series of Love Live, and it just kind of went from there. Yeah, so quite a fascinating story there, Crane. So obviously, trying out the game, right? Trying out Bang Dream Girls Band Party probably was not that much. Was something, right? But getting into the game was probably a lot different, right? Because you could try out the game and not necessarily play it. But what kind of convinced you? Was there anything in particular from the franchise, like the band or anything about the game, that convinced you that you wanted to continue playing the game?
Yes, so I downloaded the game, and it was right smack in the middle of NFL 1, so I got
Mm-hmm.
introduced to the Rosalia girls pretty quickly. And honestly, I think Rosalia just caught my eye. There were a few reasons for this. First things first, I was very much in my emo phase. Still
Mm-hmm.
kind of am. So Rosalia is like the goth rock band, and I'm like, I'm into that. Still am.
Mm-hmm.
Second
Mm-hmm.
reason was I found a number of the characters relatable. I'll point out Rinko, who
Mm-hmm.
was still very socially awkward. Like y'all remember the tank comic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I bought a tent so I could hide from the crowd. There was also Sayo, who I very much related to because yeah, I remember Sayo at the time being like one of the most polarizing characters in the fan base
Mm-hmm.
because half the fan base was just like, how do you? Half the fan base kind of like understood where Sayo was coming from, and the other half was like, boo, hiss. Why are you so? Why are you such a prick to your sister Hina? And I just remember looking at those people and being like, oh my sweet summer child, you do not have Asian parents. You do not have
Oh.
Asian parents. Because you know how a staple of Asian parenting is like constantly comparing your kid to other people's kids. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, like Steven has the friggin' Intel Science Prize. Grace is like first chair in the orchestra. Kevin is like nationally ranked math, whatever. Why can't you
Mm-hmm.
be more like them? And now imagine that like Grace and Steven and Kevin are rolled up into one and living in your own house. Like I could very easily imagine Sayo's parents just being like, Sayo, why can't you be more like Hina?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so yeah,
Expectations, right? Yeah.
yeah, and Sayo Hina's whole dynamic back then was just like Sayo picks up activity. Hina goes, ooh, One-chan, that's cool. I want to do that too. Hina also picks up activity. Hina, because she is genius, is just instantly better at Sayo than Sayo at it.
Mm-hmm.
Sayo gets a friggin' stroke.
It's a bit of a morbid way of summarizing her beginnings of the character, but yes, that is it's partially true.
Yeah, and also the third thing that attracted me to Roselia was just like their attitude. Like they were constantly just like trying to aim for the top, trying to achieve big things, and I definitely related to that.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome to hear. Crane, again, being such a big Roselia devote, and Roselia is definitely one of the more popular bands, if not the most popular band out of the bunch here. And, I think they're one of my favorites, if not my favorite as well, with regards to it. So, Roselia stands. We know why we're playing this game. It's a very fun series. And also, again, we are quite all devoted for Roselia. So it's a really awesome origin story to hear. And again, it's great that you're still devoted to the game even to this day.
Fully devoted.
Yes, truly devoted. So next up, you kind of mentioned a little bit about your a little bit of the the competitive itch that you might have, and I think kind of partially goes into the tiering, because obviously tiering is a very competitive activity as well. So like what kind of inspired you to first try tiering in Bang Dream? Was it something that started earlier in Love Live, or was it just kind of you eventually figuring out about tiering and then realizing that this was something you wanted to do in Bandori?
Well, I definitely wasn't tiering Love Life. Didn't even have the thought like the whales would probably just eat me alive. But I looked at Bandry and I saw the event titles and I was like, okay, so I can just like start from the bottom, right? I can work my way up from like 10,000 to like 5,000, 2,500, 1,000. I can just like work my way up. Right. So one of my first tiering goals came about when during Double Rainbow. So what happened was I was doing my like Flameless. I was just like managing fires and just playing the event and seeing how much higher I could push up the leaderboard. At that point, I already had like a T5K. I actually got a T5K before I got a T10K. My first T5K was from What a Wonderful World. At the time, I had like no idea how to team build or whatever, but I was really like stoked that I was finally improving at the game enough to like beat the live goals. And I think I also got like the Goal Master title from What a Wonderful World, which I thought that was really cool at the time. Like, I started from literal ground zero on Bandry. I had to like figure out how to FC easy levels. Like the fact that I came from LLSIF.
Yes. Yeah.
And yes. So after getting a T5K, I went back, got a T10K from like Let's Go Sunset Adventure, I think it was. Was also a bit miffed that I missed title for Persona event, but that was before I had any sort of competitive lineup, so whatever.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And so fast forward to Double Rainbow. And I'm just doing my usual fire managing thing, and somehow I am hovering around rank 1400. So I figure, well, you know what? Let's try going to the next level. Let's try going for a T1K. I have a few of these can things lying around. Let me just wait till event night. Wait till the last night of the event. Stack some of these things and see if it can get me into T1K. And it did. I ended up pushing like all the way into like the 600s range because I leveled up after torching some of those cans. And then I ended the event at like 800 something. By the way, funny story about Double Rainbow. So that was actually the night before my AP Econ exam.
Oh no.
So basically, event ends at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I do a quick practice test. Sleep at like 4:30, 5 a.m., something like that. Wake up like an hour and a half later, go to school, take the exam, get a 5 on it. Easy money.
Wow, look at you go. Look how accomplished you are. You said that you kind of relate to Sao, but maybe you were the Hina all along.
Nah, definitely not.
But yeah. So you mentioned that like you wanted to get T100 or sorry T1000 on Double Rainbow, and did that kind of inspired you to do other sort of tiering events after, right?
Yeah, because after Double Rainbow, I kind of thought, well, I can get T1000 on Poppin' Party's Bandori too, right? I want to do this for all the BS2s.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went out and did that, and the hardest one was obviously Neo Aspect.
Yep.
I sacked a lot of cans. I was there were 3 separate points where I was like 15 seconds away from being boated
Oh
for
no.
that event. That's another fun story. So basically, what happens is my parents would shut the Wi-Fi off in my house at 1 a.m.
Oh
Event
no.
ends at 3 a.m. So here is my absolute master plan.
Mm-hmm.
I have weird quasi VPN thingy on my computer that can sometimes circumvent the block, but I don't entirely understand why or how it works, just that it sometimes works, and that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the connection is slow and other times it's fast. It's really just a roll of the dice.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to move all of my Bandori data onto my emulator, and then try to keyboard Dory my way to T1.
No way! No way!
If I have to. Because at the time I knew what best story was. And so best story is telling me that the cutoff is going to be like 1.66 or 1.67 or something like that. And so before the Wi-Fi shut off, I'm like, okay, I'm at like 1.72 mil. This should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I hopefully won't have to move at all, and this whole plan just won't matter, but I'll still be periodically like checking the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
No, that is not what happened. So there were 3 separate points where I was 15 seconds away from being voted.
Oh boy.
First point. I'm downloading my game I'm downloading Bandori onto the emulator. I'm downloading my data.
Mm-hmm.
I have a transfer code and everything. It is taking forever. It is like moving at a glacial rate. I am like, oh no, I'm not sure I budgeted enough time for this. Like something that I expected to take half an hour, I budgeted like an hour for it. It is so slow.
Oh no.
Like the bar is crawling, downloading. I'm watching the clock. It's like 57, 58, 58, 59. And then at like 59 minutes and 45 seconds, boom, it loads in. My game's on.
Okay.
At that point, I turn on my weird VPN thing and I'm like, okay, time to play. It is slow as dirt. The connection that night is slow as dirt.
Oh no.
I tried playing a couple of multi-live runs. One of them barely got through. The other one, I watched my bar go to 0 like 3 different times. And the whole time I am begging, like, somebody please Alt F4. Somebody please Alt F4. I don't want to have to reopen my game again because I'm afraid it's not going to load me in.
Oh no.
Finally, someone mercifully Alt F4'd. So I go back and I just start sacking cans in free life to try and stay ahead of the cutoff.
Oh yeah.
And then at around like 2 a.m., game kicks me. And I'm like, oh no, oh please. Like I am begging and screaming and crying for the game to load me back in. I am trying. It just will not let me back in. And then at 2:30, it lets me back in.
Mm-hmm.
Consider this the second time where I was 15 seconds away from being voted, because if that had loaded me in 15 seconds slower, I would not have gotten my last run in.
Mm-hmm.
So then, once again, start pounding, keyboard dorying away in free life. So at 57, so at like 2:55 or 2:57, I think it was 2:55. You know the loading screen between like the end of your run and the characters talking to each other, where there's like this comic on the screen with the loading bar under. That loading bar was slow as dirt.
Oh no.
Because my connection that night was not good. So once again, I am begging and screaming and pleading for the loading bar to finally load. And then at like 59:45, once again, it finally loads in. I am watching the characters talk. Click, 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 click. And then just for one last time, I want to check the leaderboard, and I'm like exactly ranked 1,000.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right. Let me back in. And I dump one more free life run. In Noob Me's infinite wisdom, he sacked a big can instead of a small can.
Oh no!
I want my 9 fires back, Noob Me. I want my 9 fires back. Anyways, last run, I get through it. And then like so rankings come out at 310.
Mm-hmm.
At like 307 or something like that, my connection finally kicks the bucket. So yeah, I just have nothing left to do at that point. I go to sleep. Actually, did I even go to sleep? I'm not entirely sure I went to sleep. Anyways, I wake up at like 5 in the morning, which is when the Wi-Fi. No, I didn't even sleep. I just stayed up till 5 in the morning, which is when my house's Wi-Fi comes back on.
Mm-hmm.
I check my rank, 980. Oof, dodged the boat. That experience traumatized me forever. Like, for literally forever after that incident, after the whole Neo aspect incident, like Bandori missing cutoff low by like 140k.
Yeah.
I never felt safe for T1K unless I was like 100,000 above cutoff.
Yeah, it's you saw learning tiering is definitely a hard way, right? You know, there's a lot of things you learn, right? For instance, don't necessarily trust all the cutoffs with Bandori. It's always not necessarily true, and always play more than what's needed. And also, JPdori sounds really suspect.
Oh yeah, I don't ever do that these days.
Never again. Never again.
Yeah, you can at most do like normal levels.
Yeah, so, you know, let's talk a little bit more about you eventually getting into the more high, like the higher achievements, right? So eventually at some point, Crane, you then joined the community. You learned about tiering there and learning about tiering servers and all that, and then eventually kind of got onto this. I guess you know, kind of gained a little bit of a reputation of being the Flameless tier of sorts. So first, kind of take me back into like how you first got into like the community and sort of your first sort of what you consider like a major tiering experience.
Right. So there's when I got into the tiering community, which was like during COVID year, like sophomore year of college, everyone's at home, all the classes are virtual. I can just sleep until like the minute before class starts. But I first caught the tiering bug in like freshman year. Like I'm getting ready for the morning. I'm in the bathroom of my dorm, and I'm running some numbers in my head. So like my lineup can put about 10,000 points per run on a normal event. And by normal, I mean like basically everything that isn't versus at the time. And the first place person has like 40 million. And I'm running the numbers in my head. Like, if I can do 4,000 runs during the event, I will have 40 million points. And I can get first place. Now, 4,000 runs is like a lot. You need like 12,000 cans or 120,000 stars or some equivalent combination of the two. Now, 12,000 cans is an absolutely huge, unthinkable number. But 120,000 stars is very much doable. Like, you could stockpile that in a year and change. So then I'm like, and that's when I caught the tiering bug, like, this F2PT1 thing is doable. All right, well, since I'm crawling my way up the pyramid anyways, let's try it. And my route into the tiering community was actually you, Phil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I didn't have a Discord back then. I would just go onto Twitch and find streamers and sometimes room with them. And I think at some point I probably stumbled onto your channel, which led me to your Discord server. which from there I got into the server portal and just jumped into a bunch of tiering servers. I think it was also around this time that your tiering server guide showed up in my YouTube feed, and I was like, okay, let's see it.
Shout outs to that video. You're not the first one. You got influenced to join tiering servers from that video, so
yeah. So as for the tiering servers themselves, I don't entirely remember which tiering server was the first one I was in. I remember like some time ago looking through my old servers, and I think Viva Alive was the oldest one. Except I don't actually remember billing or talking or doing anything in there. The first one that I actually remember billing for was Recognition. So 2 things I remember. First thing was me with my full 3-star Happy Afterglow lineup, just filling in there, and somebody's like, "Hey, is this a problem? Like this guy, he's got a 3-star center. Like he's clearly doesn't have a very good lineup." And I'm like, "Hey, not my fault. Gotcha's a dick." And the runner was like, yeah, there's no comp or anything. We're chilling. We're chilling. Second thing I remember, somebody rolled 80065 for a room code. We were very stoked about that. 80065. It spells boobs.
Oh no.
We were all very stoked to be in the boobs room. That was fun.
I love kid humor. Yeah, but that's a quite an interesting way of getting into tiering. Crane, a lot of things to digest there, right? First of all, all your inner thoughts of doing all the math while just toileting. That's taking Toiletdori to the next level for sure. And yeah, the fact that I was kind of a part of introducing you to tiering, I guess either I would say I appreciate it, or maybe I'll say I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you maybe, I don't know if people regret doing tiering, but regardless, I'm glad that I was you were able to find me through streams. That's a pretty fascinating way of finding me there. So yeah, so and then it kind of eventually got into tiering servers, got into the tiering community, and learned a little bit more about tiering there. You already had a little bit of basis, figuring out best story and all that, which is quite interesting as well. So you end up trying to be that free to play player, right? And trying to get your tiering goals despite being a free to play player. What sort of eventually inspired you that, you really wanted to do Flameless? And what was that first experience like of trying to Flameless tier? Like maybe not necessarily for like a smaller title, but like maybe trying to go for a bigger one, like Flameless 100, T100. So why not share a little bit more about how that all started?
Right. So I remember somebody, well, this is a pretty common piece of advice on the community, like a Flameless T100 in terms of like playtime and grinding and all that is like relatively similar to like a T10. So I'm like, well, if I want to do a T10 at some point, might as well see if I could do a Flameless T100. Yeah, just build up that stamina, build up that endurance, build up that skill. So my first quote unquote attempt at a Flameless T100 was like, I think it was a Side Beyond the Rain. I pulled like a 7-hour shift. I thought that was like great. And then I look at my ranking and it is like exactly 100. And I'm like, yeah, no, this ain't happening.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that was my first attempt at a Flameless T100. My first actual Flameless T100 was the Roka Halloween event. Have a good Halloween. So what basically happened there was I was doing my usual manage fires routine. And then turns out ENdori had some issues on the game development and management side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they extended the event by a week, and like everybody stopped playing. Like the whole cutoff just fell asleep. And at that point, I was like 134. So I'm like, hey, Crane, you want that T100 Flameless? Let's move. So yeah, I moved. I grinded I played out my fires. I would also do this thing where like I would play out my flames, then I would just queue rooms for like half an hour until my one flame regen,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would watch 2 ads, burn off those 3 fires, play until like another flame regen, watch 2 more ads, burn off those fires, and then watch like and then play until another fire regen, and then I just watch that ad, and that was how I got myself to play like a couple extra hours
Mm-hmm.
here and there. And so I'm just grinding in pubs through the last week. And on the event night, I'm like, hey, does anyone know where cutoff is and where it's going to be? Like, Bestry is projecting like way higher than where the cutoff should be. Like, there's 6 hours to go, and Bestry projection is like 15th. Like, there's no way cutoff is getting up there.
Mm-hmm.
Bestry projection for T100, by the way, is up at 15th.
Yeah.
So regardless, I'm just sitting there trying to find rooms in pub core, just playing it out, and I end up getting like 78th.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how my first Flameless T100 came about.
Shout out to the Bandori strike. When people were like, this event was 6 days, it became 13 days. It's like, we're not playing anymore. So you kind of took advantage of that. So pretty good stuff there.
Yeah, shout out to the Bandori strike, my first ever Flameless T100. Now, at the time, I wasn't really satisfied. In retrospect, yeah, it counts. But at the time, I was like, all right, nope, I want a real Flameless T100.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Halloween was cool and all, but I want a real Flameless T100. So, what's the next Versus Live event that I can grind cans from? Dreamy Colors Pastel Fan Road? All right, let's go there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sat down
Mm-hmm.
and I played, and whenever a room came up, I'd be like, hi, I want in. And I just sat down and I played for I don't even know how long. I just took every ounce of free time I had and just grinded Pastel Fan Road.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually ended up touching T50 on like the last day. It was
Wow.
pretty wild. Yeah, obviously I wasn't gonna hold it because I would need like a huge buffer to do
Mm-hmm.
that, but like it was definitely cool being like it was definitely cool seeing like how high I could get with like no flames. I ended that event at like 53rd,
Mm.
which was pretty ridiculous.
Wow. That is pretty crazy. And again, for those who are unaware about what Flameless is basically the idea of playing without using any additional flames or stars, just using the natural flames that you get through level ups and through time. Generally, for the most part, you'll be playing with 0 flames, and you're just going to be, eating a low score multiplier and just keep playing it over and over again on hours at end. And I'm sure that you played hours at end as well, right? So, the fact that getting like a Flameless T100 again, as mentioned before, is comparable to T10 hours. So you probably played a lot.
I did. I didn't
Yeah.
run the numbers at the time, but later on during embracing your lost and confused self, which I also basically Flameless tiered for a really long time, I ran the numbers towards the end of that event, and it came out to something like 15 hours a day. Granted, embracing your lost and confused self fell on top of like my spring break, so I had all the time in the world to do that.
Yeah.
Still pretty insane.
Yeah. So that actually worked out quite well because you were able to do that event, get some experience, right? Be able to once again get another Flameless T100, and then it kind of led to what eventually happened in the event right after, which was Little Rose Harmony, where you also decided to go for a Flameless T100. But this one in particular was pretty notable. You got 15th place. So tell me a little bit more about how that all transpired. Like what kind of, helped you get that title there?
Yeah, so during embracing your lost and confused self, I met Haven, who was also apparently trying to go for a Flameless T100. And there were a lot of times during that event where we would just be in a room, just like the two of us, just like grinding it out. We would constantly be sending each other screenshots of like each other on the leaderboard. And so Little Rose Harmony rolls around, and it is dead. Like that event is dead. I am managing fires and I am basically floating around at the top 100 cutoff,
Mm-hmm.
which means the event is really dead. So at that point, Haven's like, hey, I want to try Flameless T50. And I'm sitting here like, all right, as much as I am convinced that T50, Flameless T50 might be impossible most events, you are not getting a Flameless T. I like you, but you are not getting a Flameless T50 before I do, Haven. So I basically said, all right, let's run it, send it. So for basically 3 days, we just put in demon hours. Like I was working like the tiering server. I was putting the room code in the tiering server. I was putting it in Unga. I was putting it in PubCord. Like I was just trying to grab people from wherever I could think of.
Yeah.
Funny story.
Oh.
So at one point during my Flameless bum rush, I have 2 randos from PubCord in my room.
Mm-hmm.
And Frost pops in like, hey, you realize who you have in your room? And I'm like, and then I read the names. And it turns out the 2 randos I got from PubCord were like 6th and 7th on the leaderboard.
Oh.
And they were not on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, awkward.
Just slightly awkward, yeah. Slightly
Yeah.
awkward when but you had your goals, right? You wanted to get T100 T100 Flameless, and you accidentally brought a few people on board there.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, but regardless, Crane, I'm very proud of your achievement. The fact that you were able to suddenly get all those Flameless hours and be able to get a whole bunch of Flameless T100s. Again, Little Rose Harmony being one of them. The Embrace Your Lost Self, the event before, also really notable there. So you had a lot of great achievements in T100, and again, it's a matter of managing your resources well, managing your time well, and that's something it seemed like you learned maybe on the spot, but also eventually kind of got the hang of.
Yeah, I will say though, Flameless T100, you can control how much you grind. You can control how much you play, but at the end of the day, like where your ranking ends up is a function of how alive the event is.
Yeah, for sure.
Like on Sakura Stroll, I also put in pretty much every free second I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Sakura Stroll was like basically my tiering coming out party. Like Oz shouted me out in his thank you letter for like constantly being there, and also yeah, my second favorite room code ever is 22922. And the reason for that is because the room 22922 from Sakura Stroll, it started off as the G1, and then eventually, like as the main tierers filed out after the initial sprint, people would just like come in and out, and somehow that room 22922 between like me and Kaz, and that's also where I met Baked from Sakura Stroll. Between me and Kaz and Baked and like other people, that room stayed up for like 4 days. Yeah, just 22922.
The spirit of 22922 lives on.
Yeah, it finally died when like there were 3 people in a G2, but Kaz was the only one left in G1, and he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm shutting this down."
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Sakura Stroll. The other thing I remember Sakura Stroll for is the ending.
Oh yeah.
So on the last day, I'm like grinding. Now, with 15 hours to go, I had like a 350,000 point lead over the cutoff. And I'm like, okay, this could be okay. The thing is, though, right? Here's the problem with Sakura Stroll. Usually, when you look at the bestiary cutoff for T100, it goes down as the event goes along. Sakura Stroll's bestiary cutoff did not go down. It basically stayed there the entire event. But anyways, I'm thinking, well, I have a 350,000 point lead. If I can just keep grinding, I should probably be fine. So with about an hour before event end, somebody called Kana comes into my room. And they're like, hey, I want to come fill. And I'm like, sure, come on in. I'm always down to have a room going. And as the event's winding down and people are filing out, like, yeah, I'm safe, I'm good,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in there. And I'm still grinding away. And at something like 257 or 259, I decide, you know what? I'm gonna go check my rank. It'll probably be something like 98 or 99, but
Mm-hmm.
there's barely any time left. I'm just gonna see. No, the rank says 101. And then
Oh
I look at the
no.
leaderboard more carefully. And the person right above me is Kana.
Oh no.
Yeah, and Kana's like 13,000 above me.
Oh
And at that point in
no.
the event, like, even if I was willing to sack the 6 cans to like bump myself up, I wouldn't have had enough time to unload the 2 runs.
Yeah.
All I could just do was sit there being salty.
Oh no.
I got 101 on Sakura's scroll. It was,
Yikes.
yeah, voted by someone who was in the same room with me. Like
That's like
20
the
minutes.
ultimate sense of betrayal right there.
Exactly. To
Man.
this
But
day, I'm still salty about it.
at the very least, though, that kind of inspired you and gave you motivation to really go grind because, again, the aforementioned events we talked about earlier that came after, you were able to get those pretty big achievements. But yeah, that I can imagine that will still be a memory you'll keep pretty dear, whether for good reason or not. So.
Yeah, definitely. Embracing your lost and confused self was sort of like me revenge tearing. Like, I got
Mhm.
voted last time. I'm not letting myself get voted this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Fortunately, it was deader despite being a Rosalia event.
Yeah.
So yeah, I T100 Flameless the Rosalia event.
Yeah, that's a pretty big achievement, especially for being a devotee fan like you. So yeah, that's a pretty fun achievement to have. Yeah, good. All right, so a few more things to talk about. You got first place in the Future Will Surely Be Rosy event. This was a team live event, which is a little bit different from the other formats that we've had in the past in terms of the in-game events. This is a pretty big jump because you basically went from just casually getting T100s and maybe a few T50s through Flameless, and then suddenly, bam, you got a T1. So take us back to what happened there. Like, did you plan for this T1, or did it just kind of came up to you and it just kind of worked out, or what was the story there?
I most certainly did not plan to go for T1. I remember so several months before, like I don't even remember when, like it was probably during like freshman or sophomore year.
Mhm.
My memory says freshman, but the timing just doesn't check out.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, at some point I remember looking at like all the Bandori events and just checking to see if there were any I would have had like a full 5 out of 5 4-star lineup for.
Mm-hmm.
And Rosy was like a 4 out of 5, but I was missing Happy 4-star Choo Choo. And
Mm.
Happy 4-star Choo Choo would have come out during Chorus Skate. So I remember being pretty salty about that and being like, all right, well, I guess I just gotta wait for my event. Fast forward to like the night before Rosy.
Uh-oh.
And suddenly I realized, wait, Chorus Skate hasn't happened yet. Happy 4-star Choo Choo doesn't exist. So then I'm like, oh wait, oh crap. Does anyone know what optimal lineup is? So I'm just typing around in a bunch of Discord servers, like, and then Cos gets back to me with like a lineup that's DF Mocha,
Mm-hmm.
DF Maya,
Mm-hmm.
Luminous Aya, DF Lisa, and DF Chisato as like a third Happy Pasu stack.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, hang on a minute. I have DF Mocha. I have DF Maya. I have Luminous Aya. I have Neo Aspect Lisa. It's not DF Lisa, but it's still a scorer.
Mm-hmm.
A small step down. I also have DF2 Hina for a third Happy Pasu stack, which I was miffed about when I sparked for on the Summer Raz banner where I got her from.
Yeah.
As I sparked the Summer Raz banner, math tells you are supposed to get 18 4-stars.
Yeah.
I got 12. When you run the binomial distribution, that is like bottom 9% of outcomes.
Wow.
So I was pretty miffed about that.
Yikes.
But hey, here's Hina. So yeah, I basically realized I have near opt.
Uh-huh.
So then I'm like, all right, you know what? This will be a good test run for when I actually decide to tier an event. Now, at this point, I'm still like, all right, I don't know how high I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I draw up my plan like, all right, here's my plan. I am going to sack like 20k stars. If I do that, I should still have enough time to be able to build up enough to spark on like Yuki Ron DF,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I was thinking about doing. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the Kira Fez
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that had like the Kanochisa card.
Yes, that's right. That's
And the
right.
Maruchu card. Yeah. I was thinking about that. I was also thinking about the Yuki Ron DF. And I was thinking if I could spark either one of those, that would add a bit to my deck.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I take like 20k out of my current star count at the time, I thought I should still be able to stockpile enough in time to spark Yuki Ron DF.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to sack 20,000 stars, see how high I go, and then defend whatever rank I'm at.
Yeah.
So, all right. I've decided I'm going to tier this. What's the game plan? So first thing I do is I start trying to read through card stories. I have like so many of these cards. I had like so many of these cards piled up.
Mm-hmm.
I had like 40,000 stars just locked up in card stories. It was ridiculous. And yeah, I got through like 2 or 3 rows. And then I just skipped the rest of them. It was very tragic.
Yeah, it's a huge time sink. It's like you want to learn more about the characters, but at the same time, time's also an important resource.
Yeah. So I did that. All right. Other thing for event prep. So I ran Iris.
Mm-hmm.
This is important for a couple of reasons. 2 reasons. The first was that for Iris, my friend Haven, who I met during Embracing Your Lost and Confused Self, made a big giant spreadsheet for Iris with like all the song rotations in there. And I figured, well, are we going to do this again for Ayalisa? We are going to do this again for Ayalisa.
Mm-hmm.
So we are just sitting there in like a Google sheet, just pounding out all the rotations that JP had with like 6 hours to go before the event.
Oh yeah.
So we're just punching that out and we get that done. So now I have like, this is where all the good rotations are and all the crap rotations are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, all right, other reason Iris was important. So back in the run-up to Iris, right? We all know who Homie Dixon is.
Mm-hmm.
A very accomplished hero, has a bunch of podiums, a bunch of T10s. And Iris was supposed to be his coronation party.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was all out there. He was like, I'm going to run this event. I'm going to get first place. I'm going to pick Giraffe because Flower is stupid and bad. And everyone was like, yeah, go Homie. Like, out of all the top 10 people on that leaderboard, only one of them picked Flower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one person who picked Flower was the T1, some JP sniper. Not entirely certain if they were JP, but I remember seeing their thank you letter and their Twitter profile was all in Japanese. I swear up and down that I've seen it. I don't remember where.
Yeah, I believe it was a Baba who got it, and he was actually guest in this podcast as well.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. But either way, yeah, tragedy happened for Homie.
Right, tragedy happened for Homie. Now I learned now the big thing, my big takeaway from that event was Homie picked blue team. I usually don't refer to team life teams by their actual names. I just say red team and blue team.
Yeah.
Homie was on blue team. Blue team had more people. And the way team life matchmaking works is the priority goes to finding people who are on the opposite team from you.
Yeah.
And so since Homie had a smaller pool of priority matchmaking, that meant he was having slower rates, which just meant he was constantly getting outran by, I think, Ababa, I think. So I immediately go, all right, since I'm running Rosy and Rosy is a team life, I want to be on losing team. Now, what's going to be losing team? I don't entirely know for certain. But what I
Mm-hmm.
do know is this. Between like the 4 team lives on JP and like the 1 team live we had on EN, red team has won like exactly once.
Oh.
So I figure, well, I'm picking red team. I'm picking red team. Blue team won on JP. I'm picking red team. I want to be on the losing team for faster rates. I'm picking red team.
Yeah.
So, yep. So, fast forward to like A59, 55, and I'm like, all right, 56, 57, 58, 59. It's go time. And I just menu through like as fast as I can. I skip the first chapter of the event story. I get onto red team. And then I queue into a room. If you told me that was the first room of the event, I would have probably believed you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I show up on the leaderboard at like first place. And so, okay, cool, fine, got more to do. And I just keep on queuing rooms. And at some point, like a couple hours into the event, like people were DMing me like, "Oh my God, Crane, are you actually going for this?" And I'm like, "Holy shit, I'm doing it! I'm tearing! I'm tearing! I'm flying!" It's like flying for the first time.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, oh my God, I'm tearing. I'm actually doing this. I'm on top of the leaderboard. This is insane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I learned very quickly early on that whatever rank I was gonna be at was whatever rank I wanted to defend. I learned pretty early on that that rank was probably gonna be 1.
Wow. Wow. That is
Yep.
that is pretty insane, right? Because you just had the mindset of like, I'm gonna go in, see how it went, and see how it goes. And in the moment, I imagine the moment when after you did a little bit of run, you're like, I'm first right now. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, I can imagine the shock and just be like, okay, I guess I'm going to defend that T1.
Yep. That's what happened.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Now, obviously, again, for those who are unaware, this particular event, the future will surely be Rosy. This was a team live event, but back then, these were the first. That and Iris were the first couple of events, and there wasn't a sense of playing with other people. There wasn't any sort of private rooms or making private teams. Everything was just done on pub and just based on your own matchmaking and a little bit of luck here and there. So I imagine that experience playing by yourself, you kind of looking at spreadsheets of like songs and what you had to do was definitely a much different experience than maybe your previous experiences tiering with people and playing with actual playing together with other people.
Yeah. So couple of couple of stories
Mm-hmm.
from the actual run itself.
Yeah.
So I tried to do the initial industry standard 30-hour tier sprint.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. I basically died in like the 20 hours into the event.
Yeah.
So by that point, it is 5 p.m. My parents woke me up for dinner at 6:30. And I was like, oh no. At like, yeah, it was 5:30. I woke up for dinner at 6:30.
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh no. I go upstairs, speed eat dinner, come back downstairs, keep grinding. And then I'm like, all right. So I know so I learned from, well, pasta.
Shouts pasta, yeah.
Pasta. The best way to like here, you want to do the industry standard 21-3, but you need to sleep like during the night. Like you want to sleep before the sun rises.
Yeah.
That way when you wake up, the sun's up in the sky, you feel energy and you can keep on running.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So after my unplanned nap in like the afternoon, yeah, now I needed to figure out how I wanted to manage my sleep schedule. So plan A, sleep at 4 a.m. like I am supposed to. I take like a 15-minute break. I'm lying in bed. I'm trying to sleep and I just can't sleep. I'm too energetic. Nope, not gonna work. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided I'd go back out there. By this point, Raven had stopped to do something. I think he was like take a shower or eat or something. I don't really know what. He took a short break. So I'm just like, all right, I'm back in here. I'm gonna grind. I'm gonna see if I can extend this to like a 3-hour lead. By the way, So the other three main runners for that event were Daniel G. Jock,
Mhm.
who had like T2 Play Act Challenge audition or something
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
There was Rainbow Worm, who at the time had a few T10s in Bandori, but also like a T3 in Sekai.
Mhm.
And Raven, who was, I believe, was T4 for Melody of the Dignified Wind.
Yep, that is correct.
Yeah, I was also talking in Kay's server, and she was like, "Yeah, Raven, he's cracked. Like he could have gotten podium for Melody of the Dignified Wind if he didn't run out of resources."
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I have some solid opposition here."
Mhm.
Now, what
Mhm.
ended up happening was on the very first night, Daniel G-Jock suddenly flatlines. Everybody's like, "Okay, I don't know what the heck happened to him." Later, he puts in his profile, got sent to hospital.
Oh.
I sent the guy to the hospital by tapping a phone.
Yikes! Oh, that I don't know if that's something that you should put on your proud
Yeah,
achievements
that's
list there.
I was like, well, that happened. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, my phone is apparently voodoo or something. Second thing. So at some point, Rainbow Worm DMs me like. So at some point, Rainbow Worm has in
Yeah.
profile like, not the protagonist. Send me your Discord, because at the time I still called myself not the
Oh
protagonist.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Right. Quick funny bit. I DM'd him not thinking he was Rainbow Worm, but
Yeah. Oops.
anyways, yeah, oops. But anyways, we get to chatting a bit. Like, look, we get to chatting a bit about what the podium race is like, but whatever.
Yeah.
Rainbow Worm folds about like 15 hours in. Like, yeah, I don't think I can run this T1.
Yeah.
So after that is just me against Raven, and
Mhm.
Raven was on blue team, and blue team was winning.
Yep.
So Raven was getting slower rates than me.
Mhm.
So yeah, Raven did end up taking the lead after I took like my unplanned pre-dinner nap, but
Yeah.
I very quickly got it back
Yeah.
because I was just having faster rates
Mhm.
because losing team speed buffs. Okay, but back to the sleep thing. So I get my lead to about 2.9 hours, and then Raven comes back on. I'm like, no. All right, plan B. I took like a 1 hour nap before like I took like a 1 hour nap. I can probably afford like a 1.5 hour nap at some point,
Mhm.
and then hopefully I can run to the middle of the night off of 1.5 hours of sleep.
Mhm.
When am I going to take my 1.5 hour nap? Well, I have my handy dandy spreadsheet, and my handy dandy spreadsheet is telling me that the 9 to 12 rotation is god awful. Like, it's got pop and shuffle, it's got like it's got like pop and shuffle, it's got like, I don't remember exactly.
There's probably some really
It's got, like,
anti-meta songs, like definitely like
a
longer
lot of
songs.
anti-meta songs. The one of the most meta songs in that rotation was like Yearning, Sorrow, Assurance, which is like not meta.
Oh yikes! Yeah, that's pretty long too. Yeah.
Yeah. Was Happy Synth in there? I'm not entirely sure. But Pop and Shuffle, we all hated Pop and Shuffle.
Yeah, yeah.
My plan was 9 a.m. Go upstairs, eat Dory breakfast, food coma myself for like 1.5 hours, wake up, sleep through half of this crash rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, turns out I didn't need the food coma part, because at like 8:55, I feel my brain just doing the hard shutdown, and at like 9 a.m. I just roll onto my bed and just sleep. Yeah, I take my nap. Then I wake up, I am like shaking, I'm shivering, I'm cold, my knees are shaking, my hands are shaking, I can't play. I'm like, oh my god, this is awful. Why did I think this was a good idea? Throw some water on my face. Suddenly everything is fine. Go eat breakfast, go back downstairs, and now we're chatting with Raven. By this point, Raven had been awake for like 40 hours.
Oh, yikes.
And I'm like, bro, how are you still going? And he's just like, anger. And also Ritalin, but anger. At some point, he also asked me with about an hour left in the rotation whether we could just agree to skip this. And I'm just like, nah, I choose suffering.
Yo, no truce. Just go for it.
It's like you can. I choose suffering. The reason for that was simple. First, obviously, I'm fresh. He's tired. This benefits me. Second reason is I knew the next rotation would be absolutely cracked.
Yeah.
It had like Hello Wink, which was like a 790, which was like which was like basically soft meta. I think it also had like a really good Afterglow song. Is either like One of Us or Red Red Red. It's one of some Afterglow 26 that was really meta. Basically, it was just a really cracked rotation all around.
Yeah.
So I knew that rotation was going. It also had like Cue My Flower.
Oh, my beloved. Let's go.
Yeah, it was nuts. So I played that rotation. So I was fresh for that rotation. Raven dipped with about half an hour left in the awful rotation.
Yeah. Ooh.
He woke up an hour into like the next rotation. He missed like an hour of the absolutely cracked rotation that I very happily played through.
You're able to build that lead from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that,
this day. Yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that was like prep work winning the day. What else was I gonna say? To this day, I am absolutely certain that if Raven and I had swapped teams, he would have won.
Oh,
straight up. Because like the speed buffs were just that important. He basically KO'd himself trying to uptime me because he knew his rates weren't gonna be up because just losing team. It's just winning team slow rates.
Yeah.
He basically flatlined on morning of day 4. I think he got like an hour feature block, tried to sleep it off, and just slept right past his alarms and everything.
Oh, yikes, yeah.
And on the 4th day, I was just like confused as to why Raven wasn't playing. And I'm just sitting there trying to stack a gap. And then finally that evening, I'm like, Raven, you good? And he comes back to me like, yeah, I fold. I'm not gonna move unless D3 moves. Rainbow Worm chose not to overtake, so that was done and dusted basically. Nothing left to do after that except perk.
There you go. So what an amazing achievement, and I think honestly that kind of went back to just how much you prepared for the event, right? All the Flameless tiering you practiced before, like just playing by yourself and just really kind of gaining that stamina there, kind of understanding even the smallest quirks, right? Like losing team, getting some advantage buff there, and I think that little bit of preparation really kind of helped you in the end, and also with a pretty solid team, event team, it all kind of worked out. So big props to you, Crane. Again, you're like basically the only person who has a Team Live event title of T1 that is pubs only, basically, right? It's pubs only, no private. The only other person is Ababa, and both of you kind of share that title. So, or title of basically pub Team Live T1 in ENdori. So big props to you there. So just before we end off, we're actually running out of time on the studio today, but I just want to briefly kind of touch base with you. I just kind of briefly kind of reminisce a little bit about our experience tiering a School Excursion Hanasakigawa event, which was the most recent event prior to this recording. A lot of fun times there. It was challenging, of course, a lot of struggles, but first of all, I was happy that you kind of reached out to me and asked about securing roster. And at the time, it wasn't the case. You were on the wait list, but things kind of worked out and ended up joining me. I knew for certain, CraneTrek, I really needed you on the roster because I knew that you would be like someone that like, okay, if no one's going to be filling the event, I know you would at least be there because I knew of how your Flameless achievements, and I knew like you were going to be there pretty much almost all the time to play. So I knew that I had to have you in the roster at some point. Yeah, when you asked me, I was just like, okay, I had to have you in the roster at some point. Like it has to happen. So, but like for you, like was that something that you saw? You're like, yeah, I'm gonna go for this event, and well, like was there any motivation in particular for that event, or you just thought that this was just something you wanted to try?
Well, the reasoning is very simple. Hanasakigawa Excursion, which I often refer to as just the Sayochise event, would have been the first event that I had full 5 out of 5 4-star lineup 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I did the math. Like when the event was announced, I realized I have 4 out of 5,
Mm-hmm.
and I can just spark the Chisato.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, I had 3 out of 5, but I could spark the Lisa and the Chisato, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm gonna go for this. Let me introduce you to one of the most frustrating things about being F2P tierer.
Yeah.
When the event gets announced, you don't know you are going to be on the roster.
Uh-huh.
The way I did that was I see the banner girl and I'm like, all right, let me check my deck. I have to wait for like the attribute information and all that to come out. By the time that information is out, usually all the rosters are filled because everyone else will have gone, ooh, best girl on banner, let me tier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was sitting there on K's wait list for like several months, and then you came by with your DMs and you were like, hey, want to be in my server? And I was like, sure, but full disclosure, I'm on K's wait list. And then what ended up happening was your roster spot opened up before K's.
Yeah.
So that led me into
that
led me into Hanasakigawa Excursion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So again, a little bit of optimal luck, right? Getting the right roster. And again, partially, again, for me, planning out that event, a part of it was I didn't want to compete against, have you be a valuable filler for them. A part of it was also just making sure that I take that valuable resource away from them. so it all kind of worked out there. We started the event. We did preparations, kind of. I'll be honest, I don't think we prepared. Like, you did a lot of preparation for your T1. I don't think I did a lot of preparation. I just kind of went with it. Like, okay, let's see how it goes. And part of it was the fact that we had like the V3 VS Live system that I didn't understand.
That caught everyone flat-footed. Like when even Pastry is like, wait, I wasn't expecting this to happen. Like something.
Yeah, if Pastry didn't expect it to happen, then we're like, oh yeah, this is bad.
Yeah.
In hindsight, again, I had a conversation with Bake a long time ago before the event started, and I was like, we should go in separate rooms. Like, if we're competing for T1 in our own server, we should be in our separate rooms, and I think we kind of do our own rates and do it. I was honestly super down to just go SOS tiering while he does his own thing, and then we would split into 2 rooms. And he's like, efficiency is important for both of us, so we should still be in the same room. Like, okay, let's do that. Let's do that. But I think if I did a little bit of research, I could have convinced him that maybe we should have started with separate rooms.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, like I said, none of us were expecting V3 to have the kind of impact it had. It ultimately ended up working to the benefit of me and Kay and to the detriment of you and Baked.
Yeah, basically, right? Again, it just made things a lot more easier for the competition, not necessarily for us because we were kind of like sabotaging each other's scores. But that's just how it is. It's a learning experience. I don't think I necessarily regret learning it the hard way, but yeah, that was definitely a really interesting start. And honestly, in hindsight, like if let's say we knew that a lot more, then we would have tiered a little bit more together, probably in G2, and then we would have a little bit of awkward rates with your device because for some reason Bandori and Android is just stupid. But
I remember when there was the crashing issue on like Android 11 and 12, and I'm like, my phone is Android 10. I don't.
Got him.
Yeah, and now it's slow, and now it's just like not slow enough for Baked's Lightning Room.
Yeah,
not fast enough for Baked's Lightning Room.
Yeah, which is a little unfortunate. Like, a lot of things didn't really go the way that we thought, right? Like, I had to spark for Chisato, which in hindsight actually didn't really matter too much. But like things like, again, the rates of our rooms, the devices and all that. But yeah, it definitely did not go the way that we thought. But I think overall, I think I had a really fun time tiering that event. I hope that was the same for you, and getting a T4, which is technically a boat title, but it's, I don't think you're too upset about that.
I definitely was not aiming podium. My plan was to burn for like 3 days and then just flatline, and I didn't even need to burn for 3 days.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. It was surprisingly a pretty dead event. Like, I thought T10 was going to be pretty woke, but there were enough spots for T10 that people could like kind of sneak in. And everyone kind of like knew, like, okay, we wanted T10, and they didn't want to do, like, they didn't really care about placements or anything. It's just like whatever. And then the podium kind of also kind of settled itself pretty quickly as well. So
shout out to Boat Server for filling for me basically the entire event.
Yeah, big shout out to the Boat Server. And honestly, again, the overall experience of the event, despite the shortcomings in the result in the end, I think it was a lot of fun. I remember VCing with you. We watched some strange anime, like with Nag. That was a really strange anime.
That's the funny part about me tiering. So when I dig out tiering anime, like I specifically try to dig out like B-list, C-list shows.
Yeah.
Because like if it's actual good anime, I'm like, no, but I need to actually sit myself down and enjoy it, and I can't really do that while tiering because I can't even read subtitles. I gotta be tapping the screen.
Yeah. So, you know, that is a very true point. You got to put some distractions that don't necessarily need that much attention, because if you put too much attention, then you start playing bad in the game, and definitely things don't quite work out. But overall, I think it was a lot of fun. I remember that, you know, throughout the first the first couple days in the event, that you try your best to stay up as long as possible, and that was pretty good. I was really happy to have you on as long as possible, especially the first day. First day was pretty rough, but
like, you know, when your performance starts flagging, you gotta sleep.
Yeah, you're just like, I'm done. So yeah, that makes sense. So I'll totally understandable. Again, you were just going for T10 title, so no needed to go super duper crazy hours like with K and Baked Goods did. Actually insane. So
50 hours, holy.
Yeah, pretty insane, honestly. But yeah, overall, I think again, it was a fun experience, and you know, big shout outs to you getting a T10 title. Pretty chill T10 title, I would say, and you had plenty of resources to spare. So, yeah. So, any other things you want to briefly mention about that event? I just wanted to just kind of reminisce a little bit on that, and just kind of thank you again for being a part of that event for me.
Yeah. So, other things. My stockpile before the event. A lot of people were curious how big it got.
Mm-hmm.
I think Liz straight up DM'd me like right before the event, like, and I've literally told her I would post it in T10 chat.
Yeah.
So I did that. Like after Baked stopped.
Yeah, it was a tough time for Baked there. Yeah.
I did post it in T10 chat. Like when you tally up all the cans I had, it ended up at like over 11,000. I very easily could have gotten to that magical 12,000 number if I'd waited like another several months.
Yeah, but you'll eventually get there. Yeah, you'll eventually get there. So
yeah, questionable.
We'll see.
We'll see if I have any other tiering plans in the future that'll chew through it a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. But again, regardless, it just shows again how resourceful you are, and you know how you kind of resist the urge to use all the resources, and you know, being a Flameless tier, it really just the rewards are. It's a tough journey, but the rewards later down the road are so beneficial. So, yeah. Okay, good. Well, speaking of future events, just kind of wrap things up for today, Crane. Do you have any future events that you plan on doing that you may want to share with our crowd today? Or is it still something a work in progress?
Nothing concrete yet.
Mm-hmm.
There is one event I've had my eyes on. I DM'd the people running the roster about it, and it doesn't look competitive at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They said they would let me onto the roster if it kept looking non-competitive, but they were keeping the spots open just in case. So my hopes are high that I'll get on there.
All right. Well, again, no need to share exactly what event it is, but all the best. We might see you again on another T10 board very soon. So hopefully things will work out there. Is there a particular dream event that like, if you saw that event, it would be like Splurge 12K cans for sure?
Nah.
Nothing in particular?
No, I'm just like, if there are certain items on my wish list, but if those come around, I'm probably just immediately going to kowtow to whoever is fan of Banner Girl.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So,
because like I'm just imagining future Bandori where like master ranks are a thing and there's
Oh.
gonna be like a dozen whale, and there's like a dozen whales gatekeeping each of their favorite girls.
Yeah,
I'm just sitting
that.
here like, and I'm just sitting here like, yep, okay, Sayo event DM pastry or something like that. DM pastry
Yeah.
or
Future Bandori tiering is going to be very different for sure. I think you could might as well try and make it count now before everything changes. So we'll see.
I'll see what titles I can pick up.
All right. Well, all the best, Crane, in that. Hopefully things will go well. And again, once again, I want to thank you again for taking the time to not only be a part of my roster for School Excursion Hanasakigawa Arc, but also just be a wonderful guest for today's podcast episode. So before we end off, any last words, last shout outs you want to give to our audience today?
Yeah, so right, once again, I'd like to thank Haven in particular for helping me through these events. I want to shout out Boat Server for like filling, for like being a great community and filling for me during a lot of Hanasakigawa excursion. Thank you, Phil, for being my tiering dad and being my introduction into the tiering community and letting me be on the podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, shout out to Lisa for being the banner girl on the event, for being my favorite girl and being the banner that I got my T1 on.
Big shout outs. So yeah. Crane, again, once again, a great pleasure to have you on the studio. Thank you so much for your time. And for our listeners out there, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the RePHIL Studio. As always, remember to check us out on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And of course, if you haven't done so already, feel free to join the Unga Academy Discord server. That's what Crane did. And look at him now. So Unga Academy Discord server, links in the description below. And you'll be able to interact with special guests and also contribute to the studio question and also interact with these recordings as they're done live. So until then, guys, the set has been complete. Get your cans ready. We'll refill to 99 on the next set when available. But until then, we'll see you all next time. So take care and bye-bye.